Good morning. I was going to ring the singing bowl this morning to get your attention, but it was beautifully quiet here this morning. So welcome. It's great to be with you. I can't tell you how happy I am to see you, and I'm hopeful that you're obviously happy to be here. And for those of you out in the pavilion, welcome. For those of you online, welcome. It is wonderful to have folks here. It's wonderful to have folks there and out there. So grateful for this morning and for everyone that has taken the time to create this service for you. Think about Daniel Goodsit and John Forsyth in the AV room. We're no longer calling it a closet. Grateful for our new co-music directors, whose Steve will introduce in a second, Abby and Sean. And especially grateful for Steve for stepping in and being our worship associate for a reason this morning, which will become obvious. So Steve, please take it away.
All right. Well, good morning. And welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples. It's so great to be with you this morning. It's especially joyful that we're gathering here for the first time inside the sanctuary after 16 months. That's a long time. And to see your faces, it's just such a joy. Anyway, my name is Steve Espinoza, and I'm your worship associate today. And I'm also a member of the music committee and recently chaired the search committee for our new music co-directors. And I'd like to offer a special welcome for those of you visiting for the first or second time. Thank you for joining us. And if you're viewing online, we hope you will make yourself known in the live chat so that we can say hello. And we hope you might email our administrator, Anna Riazzi, at office@uunaples.org so we can include you in our regular news blasts, which relate all the wonderful things that are happening here at UUCGN. If you're here with us for the first time in person this morning and are comfortable doing so, raise your hand, and so you can let us know you're here so we can greet you later on after the service. I didn't see those arms. There you are, okay. Anyway, it's great to have you with us. Now, I've been given the honor of introducing our new music co-directors. But before I do that, I'd like to acknowledge the outstanding musicianship and awesome piano stylings of our beloved Stu Shelton, who stepped in to act as music coordinator for the last 10 months. His easy style got us through this difficult time during the pandemic, invited some great musical guests, and helped us assemble our first virtual choir, which was no easy feat. Sometime in September, our music committee will host a special gathering of appreciation for him. Again, thank you, Stu. As I mentioned earlier, I chaired the new music director search committee. Martha Cornell, Linda Swears, and I began our task of finding a new music director back in March with Tony's guidance. I'd like to thank the Board of Trustees, especially Mike Kirko, Susan Music, Elaine Cockcroft, who helped us get to our goal. In UUCGN's July newsletter, you might have read our committee statement to the congregation of our search and our decision to invite these wonderfully talented people to join our UUCGN staff. As stated in the newsletter, they checked all the boxes for every quality we were looking for in a new music director. But what surprised us most was the opportunity to have this dynamic duo to act as co-directors, a musical team. Our interviews with them were so pleasant. And when they performed a small concert for us right here in the sanctuary, we knew that we'd struck gold. And along with their awesome talent, they are truly lovely people. They brought their children with them today, Simon and Taryn, and Abby's mother, Barbara. It is my great pleasure to introduce to you Abby and Sean Ellison. Sean, would you care have some words? Yes.
Thanks so much. First, I wanted to just quickly say we're really, really delighted to be here, truly in every way, not just because we're getting to play music live for people, which is not something we've gotten to do all that often in the past 16 months, but also obviously to be here and start getting to know you all. So the search committee really did make the interview process incredibly pleasant. It was even fun, I think. I don't know. That's a new thing for me. We've also gotten a taste of what it's going to be like to work with Tony and to enter into what I think is going to be a true collaboration in making worship services for you all. So we're also looking forward to starting up the choir in the fall and to also bringing in, guests you may be familiar with as well as some that you have never met before. So again, thanks so much for having us and for wanting us to be here. Thanks.
So now, let's settle ourselves into this time of worship with the morning's prelude.
Thanks. With grateful hearts, we have entered this space once again to bask in the warmth of community, to share with friends the stories we've been holding too long, to look again into each other's eyes and to find there a balm for our souls. We join together this morning, as always, to regain our center, to rekindle the spirit of love and justice. Our hearts have been touched by the human need we see and feel all around us, whether it is at a great distance or within the reach of our arms. We come here to be together because this is how we believe our lives are best lived, in gratitude and joy, in compassion and in service, in kindness and in love. It is so good to be with you again. So good to be with you all. Welcome. 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 Let's share in the chalice lighting response that you'll find in your order of service or on the screen in front of you. May this flame stir our hearts and remind us of our mission to be truly welcoming, to grow in mind and spirit, and to widen the circle of peace, justice, and love. And let's join together in singing our opening hymn. You may rise as you are willing or able, and sing Morning Has Broken, number 38. The words will be on the screen or in your hymnals.
Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them singing fresh from the word. Sweet the rain's dew fall, sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where God's feet pass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the one light Eden saw play. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day.
Please be seated. Look where we are, back here in this sanctuary after, as Steve said, 16 months. I know it feels just like yesterday to many of you. How much we have been through, how much we have witnessed, how much we have felt, endured, suffered. There are no words. There are no way for us to, in one morning, one instant, to describe this past 16 months. How many of you in the sanctuary and out on the pavilion, how many of you lost someone you knew or a loved one to COVID? Hands, handful of hands, folks out on the pavilion. We've been blessed in this community. A few people have had the virus, a few among us this morning, and have survived well. Some of our members have not fared so well. I think of Audra Williams, whose family was devastated by this virus, both on the West Coast and on the East. And Audra in between, trying to find her way to one funeral after another. As I said, there are no words to pull this together, to make it real, for us to understand in a few words this past year, this past 16 months. And yet, here we are. We have survived. We have been flexible enough to adjust, to change our lives. We've been privileged enough to do that. How wonderful it is to be together. How much we need to remember and not forget what has transpired during this time. In our joys and sorrows, you'll have an opportunity to express the names of those you know who have or are suffering, both from the virus and not. And we will have an opportunity later in the year to take time together to honor those who we've lost. We did so online in January and at Memorial Day, and standing here alone in the sanctuary didn't feel quite right. So we welcome you. We're grateful. I know that we've been flexible here on the worship team, trying to bring to you services. We now need to adjust a little bit more. I can no longer wear my flowered baggy shorts with sandals to preach in, knowing you won't see me up there. But I'm grateful for that opportunity. Yeah, you're grateful too, I know. And so today we're going to be talking a little bit about the flexibility that each one of us have had to sort of exhibit over the past year. But now let's center ourselves, remain seated and center ourselves into our time of joys and sorrows, of sharing and of meditation with this morning's centering hymn, Comfort Me, number 1002 in your teal hymnal, and the words will be on your screen. And Sean will be leading us in our hymns this year, just so you have a strong voice there behind you.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Bend with me, bend with me, bend with me, oh my soul. Bend with me, bend with me, bend with me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul.
Our joys and sorrows, at least in the short term, will be not as they used to be with me coming out into the sanctuary and sharing the microphone. We'll get to that, I hope, sometime in the fall when everybody feels comfortable, if in fact we get there, knowing that this life doesn't have any guarantees. But I hope that in this moment you will bring to mind someone who you're aware of. Could be yourself, could be a loved one, could be a friend, could be a group of people who you would like to bring into this moment. And as I offer you this time, I hope that you'll speak out those names into this space. Those of you at home, as we have been doing, speak a name of someone with whom you're caring on the pavilion as well. Bring that person to mind, and let's speak the name starting on my left and going across. So if you have a name, please speak it out.
Barbara. Ed Cohen. Jim. Christina. And Margaret. Ray.
Thank you. I bring to the sanctuary the name of Howard Snyder, who passed this past Thursday at Avow Hospice, and we think about his wife Nancy, who now is alone and working to figure out her next steps. For all that you have spoken at home and here, for Howard and for Nancy, we light this candle of community. And as we enter into our time of meditation, it might be good to acknowledge that our lives are always in flux, buffeted by things beyond our scope to change. Thus, it's sometimes better to lean into the motion and find within new ways to live. Spirit of love and life, God of our deepest understanding, did we truly think 16 months ago that something too small to see with the naked eye could change our lives so much? The places and patterns of our daily rounds, so comfortable, so familiar, brought to a sudden halt by something unseen but deadly, like the fault lines in the earth's crust that wait hidden beneath the surface to shift and topple. And did you think that your life, with all its simple routines and complex relationships, could be thrown off course by something you had probably never considered, let alone feared? Finding information, finding protective gear, finding toilet paper. We had to be nimble, figuring out Zoom on our computers and tablets and phones, navigating new territory, being flexible, doing what we needed to do to get our feet back under us. Sure that we could and would find our way back to normal in a few weeks. But the virus got worse, and the response of people in high places got worse. And the world got worse with the murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, and the demonstrations and the counter-demonstrations and a political campaign that showed our worst sides. But if we were looking, we also saw the best of who we can be in the dedication of people on the front lines, in a greater awakening to inequity, and to our own caring for one another, day in and day out. This is what we need to remember, that where there is love and caring, there is hope and healing. That while it may be natural to seek the old normal or try to gain some new level of control over our surroundings, our future in this ever-changing, ever-shifting world lies more in staying nimble and trusting the bonds of love that hold us to our center, to each other, and to the world. Let's share some time together in silence.
Today's reading comes from German psychotherapist Dr. Sylvia Hartmann, titled Sailors. Being a successful human being is not about controlling your environment, but instead responding to it with extreme flexibility. A captain of a ship cannot control the wind or the sea, and those who think they can will eventually hit an iceberg and die. They do not seek to control the wind or the water, but instead, they respond to that in such a way that the wind and water become allies to move them forwards toward their goal, to the ports on the other side of the vastest oceans. It is in seeking a cooperation with the environment that we reach our goals. And when we have learned how to do that, then we are free. Free from fear, and strong in the knowledge that no matter which way the wind blows, we will know what to do to get where we want to go.
For we do not own the winds, for we do not own the winds, the winds. Then what we must always do, what we must always do, is adjust our sails, adjust our sails, adjust our sails, our sails, for we do not own the winds.
Thank you. Sabi and Sean found that a similar line online, and developed that once they knew we were sort of talking about what we're talking about today, a flexibility about adjusting our sails. My parents retired to the ocean initially. Both parents had experience with sailing that led them to want to try the sea as their next adventure. My mother, as a young girl, twice, I believe, sailed out of Camden, Maine on those windjammers, those great wooden tall ships that sail from the coast of Maine. And my dad had as a young boy, had a small dinghy sailor that he sailed on Buttermilk Bay on Cape Cod. And so they did their due diligence, and they worked hard. They learned sailing, they learned cruising, they went to week-long trainings, they did some boat sharing on Buzzards Bay, and Narragansett Bay in southern New England, and finally made the leap, decided on a boat, bought it up in Tampa, outfitted it, and began their adventure. They sailed around Florida for a year. Was grateful to join them during one of those times, and sailed in the Gulf, not far from here, up into the Everglades, swatting mosquitoes as we went. And they sailed up the intercoastal waterway up the East Coast, all the way up to Maine and back down again, all within sight of land. And then it was time for the big journey. They had decided on St. Croix and the Virgin Islands as their location where they wanted to be. They'd spent many weeks there vacationing, even a year there on sabbatical leave. And so they sailed the boat from Florida to Bimini in the Bahamas, got everything organized, made sure everything was shipshape, that the radar was working, that the navigation all was working great. And they set out on the overnight passage down to the Virgin Islands. And somewhere on that journey, my dad lost his confidence. He realized that he was not a seat-of-the-pants sailor, able to look around and adjust his sails. He relied so heavily on his technical ability. And he got out there in open water in the middle of the night, and he had to turn around. And so they sailed back to the Bahamas and back to Florida. They spent a little bit more time. They sold the boat, and they went to St. Croix and bought another boat. But sailed really only in flotillas, in small groups, within sight of land, never venturing much farther than that. When Ann and I went down to visit, we would look forward to being out on the boat, to sailing in the Caribbean, and almost every time, my dad would look at the wind and he'd say, well, it's blowing a bit strong today, so maybe we'll wait till tomorrow to go out. And I don't know how many times we actually sailed with them, maybe less than a handful in all the years that they were there. But it was interesting to watch that our technical ability does not necessarily translate into an ability to navigate change and multiple variables. Things aren't black and white. The navigation system might say one thing, but the environment outside the cockpit might tell you that you need to do something other than follow that line in that direction. As we've been preparing for this service and trying to think about how we do this work, this hybrid work of speaking to not only an audience here, but an audience sitting on the pavilion and an audience now dispersed across the United States, we realize that we're sort of just flying by the seat of our pants here, and we hope that what comes across both here and there works, that it has a flow. But it's all just guesswork right now. We'll see how it works as we go forward. The book of Ecclesiastes provides us with some familiar language that was made quite popular by Pete Seeger and the Byrds. Not together necessarily, but to everything there's a season and a time to every purpose under heaven, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together, a time to love and a time to hate. But the world is not really black and white, as Ecclesiastes says. It is complex, and it throws at us many things at once. And this year we've had so much to deal with, even as we confined ourselves and took care of ourselves and made sure that others were taking care of themselves. What we've experienced is disruption at a grand scale. And responding to that has required that we, as individuals and collectively, find some ability to be flexible and not go one way or the other. Richard Gilbert, one of my favorite ministers and mentors, has a wonderful selection in which he writes, "We live in between. We live on a remote island outpost in fathomless space between stars and moons and planets and void, surrounded by meteors and comets and rays and nothingness, in which there is no right or left or up or down, only in-betweenness. We live not at the apex of joy, nor the nether of sorrow, but in the moving space between, uncertain of our location. We live walking from city of birth to death, hoping along the way to see something of beauty, to touch hands with those we love, to give more than we get, to make sense of it all. We live in betweenness. And we need to continue to do that. We hope to land somewhere comfortable, somewhere right, somewhere solid, but the ground is always shifting. We don't know what will come next. We know that we are in for change, environmental change, social change, political change. The only thing constant, as my grandmother and the whole world used to say, is change itself. I have a friend from seminary, Margaret Weiss, who's now ministering at the UU congregation in Ithaca, New York. She's a wonderful, warm person. She offered a recipe for being in between, a recipe for resilience. She writes, "This recipe has been tweaked over time, so adjust as necessary. Sometimes it yields more servings than anticipated. Sometimes it needs a bit more of one ingredient or another. It comes from generations who have gone before and added their own flavorings along the way. A recipe for resilience, 1 part courage, 2 parts tear of failure and doubt, 1 part deep listening, 1 part each of both silence and laughter, a dash of trust, a pinch of wonder, a heaping scoop of naps and snacks, and a separate bowl mixed together, family, friends, and those who challenge you to be your best self, those with whom you disagree, and slowly add to the larger pot all these ingredients and a bay leaf. Well, whatever bay leaves do, we always add them to the pot, so we might as well add it to this one. Keep the heat at an even temperature. Cook long enough so that the bottom doesn't burn, but it yields a rich aroma. Make often, share with friends, hold on to the leftovers because you will need them. This community has held me in this time, and I know many of you feel the same. That so many of you have reached out to one another, who have found the comfort of friends and community, who know the importance of doing this together, of finding our way as we travel in between the extremes of this world. We need to be flexible. A time for every purpose and to be flexible. What this world needs from us is to stay awake and alert, to be nimble in the face of change and not to cling too tightly to things, but to hold on to each other, keeping our hearts wide open, ready to be broken again and again, and to heal again and again, and to love that place in ourselves that loves the world, to keep on loving ourselves into the world, so that there we can find each other, loving each other, and loving this community and this world. So may it be for us here, for us across this country, for those of you out on the pavilion, waving. It is so good to be together again. Thank you for being here. Steve.
As we consider today's message, let's also take some time to express our gratitude for this community, its work, its vision, and all the ways in which it nourishes our lives. From its welcoming doors and sheltering walls to its good and generous people. From the sanctuary of its memorial garden to its outreach in the wider community. For all these things and for the ways it works its magic in our lives. The morning's offering for the ongoing mission of this congregation will be gratefully received. Please consider mailing a contribution today. The address is here on the screen, or you can go to www.uunaples.org, where you'll find a donate button, where you can find out a lot more about this congregation. Abby. It's wonderful. This time following the offertory will be dedicated to any major announcements or information about upcoming all-congregational events. Everything you need to know about all the ongoing activities here at UUCGN you can find in our Sunday news or in the regular news blasts or by going online to our website at www.uunaples.org. That's a mouthful. Reverend Tony Fisher will be back in the pulpit next week, musing on the annual pilgrimage that he and Ann make to Maine and the thoughts, both spiritual and mundane, that arise along the way. Tony will be followed in the pulpit by Zen Buddhist teacher Lori Lyons on August 1st, and our own Kathy Sharon on August 8th. And we hope you'll be able to join us on Sunday, August 15th, when we'll be celebrating the official start of the new congregational year and the restart of our religious education exploration program. It will be great to have some of our youth rejoin us in the sanctuary that day. Please do check out our regular news blasts for all of the upcoming activities at UUCGN. And now, let's join our voices as Sean and Abby lead us in our closing hymn, number 1019, in the teal hymnal, Woyaya. The words will be on the screen. 1020. Okay.
Going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within when we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah, 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 oh yeah, 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 oh yeah, 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 oh yeah, 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 yeah.
And while we don't encourage our congregation to applaud, I hope that you will once again welcome Sean and Abby to our family and let them know you appreciate their flexibility in the service today. So go out into the world knowing that you are loved. Go in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor all beings. And have a wonderful day.